Now we will look at part 3, the final part of our presentation on prenatal equal protection in Georgia. This section is about energizing the grassroots, mobilizing the grassroots. In this segment, we will talk about the ways that you, as the grassroots, can be effectively energized and mobilized to bring an end to abortion in Georgia. Let's take a look back just as a review on parts 1 and part 2 of what we have already covered. In part 1, we talked about educating, and that is mainly to inform you of what personhood means and what equal protection is about. And when we talk about equal protection, again, we're talking about impartiality when it comes to the lives of preborn children. Part 2 was expand. And when we talk about expanding, we expand to educate our legislators and ourselves about the legislation that is presented in the state of Georgia. So here are 2 pieces of legislation that we will ask you to support in Georgia. That is House Bill 496, which is the Prenatal Equal Protection Act, and House Resolution 413, which is the Personhood Amendment. So when we talk about energizing the grassroots, we're talking about getting to know your legislators. They are people too. And to be a genuine encourager and to mobilize the grassroots, which means to influence voters and to take action. So here again, we will hear from Bradley Pierce, an attorney in Texas, who will talk to us about being a genuine encourager.
This one, again, this is something else that everybody can and should do at some level, or at least help with. You don't have to do this alone. You can bring a friend or multiple friends, bring folks from your church, get together and do it together. This is someone who, all right, you're an educated voter, you know what's going on, you know who to vote for, maybe even other people will listen to you and your recommendations, but you want to do more. You don't have a lot of time, because nobody has a lot of time, but you've got some time. You can't travel the country or the state, but hey, you can go drive 30 minutes, in your local area there. This is something that you can do to help build relationships with public officials in your area, and hey, just give a face to abolition, to equal protection. And so like, hey, this is someone in my district, someone I know, hey, I'm getting to know them, because hey, politicians are humans too, okay? Yeah. They're human beings too. And we need to treat them how we want to be treated. And we need to exhort them, encourage them, and we need to be genuine when we do it. Not just, hey, I want something from you, but we need to genuinely encourage those who are in authority over us. Pray for them, encourage them, bless them. And so that's really, really important. Relationships, building these relationships are a very, very important place to start, not only for them, but also for you. And again, we're not talking about trying to get a meeting with the president or even a meeting with your congressman or woman, although that would be, helpful. But we're talking even closer to home, because congressmen, their districts are pretty massive, representing, 800-something thousand people. That's a lot of people. Getting a meeting with them is pretty hard. But when you're talking about your state senator, or really, especially your state representative, that gets much closer to home, way easier to do, and in a lot of ways has even more impact. So just, again, politicians are human too, and guess what? You should be a human too. Act like a human being, not just someone who's always complaining, not just someone on the internet who's a keyboard warrior. Although there's a time and place for keyboard warriors, and I'm grateful for them as long as they're acting like Christians. But we got to go beyond the keyboards, beyond our thumbs, massaging our phones, and we've got to get in person and talk to people and get face-to-face with people. My representative, we just got redistricted, so he's no longer, but a few years ago, this is back in 2016, I guess, he ran for office, got elected. He was my, coming in as my new state representative. And I said, I just, got his number, which is available. or I messaged him through his, website, and I just say, I know you just got elected, you're coming in, the session's starting in a few months. I'd love just to get to know you and take you out for lunch. So I sent him a message, and he replies back, says, and I found out where he lived, right? And I'm like, I picked a place to eat close to where he lives, make it really easy for him. And he's like, yeah, that sounds great. And so got together for lunch with him, and met him and just got to know him and who he is, and didn't really talk politics or anything like that. Just got to know him as a man. And that was really great. And then toward the end of the meeting, I said, hey, listen, I just wanted to let you know, here's 3 issues that are important to me. Or I think I asked him first, what are some of the issues that are most important to you? Right? And he told me those. And I was like, well, here's the 3 that are most important to me. I listed those off. Of course, abolition, equal protection is one of those. And that was pretty much it. Just thanked him and moved on from there. And it wasn't too long after that, we exchanged. He gave me a cell number. I gave him mine. And not too long after that, he texted me. He said, hey, I don't know as many people from your area of the district. Would you be willing to organize a coffee in your area for me to get to know people in Liberty Hill, which is the name of my town where I'm at? I said, yeah, absolutely. And so, emailed a few people, called a few people, said, hey, here's a little coffee. Come have coffee with Representative so-and-so. And we did that, and we've just had a relationship to where now, I can text him and just say, hey, I think you should do this, or I think you should do that. At one time, though, I texted him, and I said, I hadn't texted him for a while, and I texted him, like, hey, here's what I think you should do about this. And he replied back to it, and he said, like, something like, I'm doing well, Bradley. Thanks for asking. And I realized I wasn't treating him like a human being, right? I was just firing off, here's what I want you to do. And I wasn't really treating him like a human being. And it was a wake-up call for me. Although I had been treating him, even I forgot. And so after that, I still did it occasionally, but I always be like, hey, hope you're doing well, right? I just want to let you know, blah, blah, blah. And so we see each other at events, and we have a very good relationship. So that's what I'm talking about. That's what being a genuine encourager is, although I could do a way better job than even what I just described to you. But I think it's something that we should all be doing. It's not that difficult to do. It can be intimidating because like I said earlier, we think these are like these special people, and it's so intimidating to be with them. They're just people. They're just human beings like us, and just get together and talk to them like you would anybody else. Just, hey, what's important to you? Tell me about your family. Why'd you run? What are you doing? And it's a great place to start, and it's something that we should all be doing. And again, not just getting to know them, but then encouraging them. I mean, these people, anybody who's run for office or who's been in office, it is a huge sacrifice for them personally, for their families, and the fact that they're willing to do it, regardless of their motives, right? Their willingness to do that, they deserve our thanks. Thank you for being willing to do that, and encourage them in that. And like I said, consider doing this as a church. Maybe you take them out one-on-one, or maybe two of you and take them out, but then say, hey, we'd love you to get to know our church. Hey, you know what politicians love to hear? They love to hear, hey, would you like to come talk to a bunch of voters in your district? Yeah. It's like, sign me up. They will be there. They would love to come talk to your men's group or your church or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. And so they'll definitely do that. And again, as long as it's not a campaign, rah, 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 then there's nothing legally an issue with it. And even if it is that, okay, if it's at election time, okay, invite all the candidates. Have them all come to your church, right? As long as you're inviting everybody, then that's fine. So that's something that we can do a lot better of. The other thing is, again, it's not just state representatives, but even like your local sheriff. And then I'll talk a little bit in a minute about like a party official, but
next, we will talk about mobilizing the grassroots. And again, I want to share what Bradley Pierce has to say. He makes some very good points on the matter of mobilizing the grassroots and what that actually looks like.
Once we had a bill, then we started gathering petitions, right? Why do we gather petitions? Because now we can show, hey, here's all the people who support this, but also those people are now on our email list, and now we can contact them. We can say, hey, get your representative to support this. Hey, here's what's going on. Your representative is killing the bill. Can you contact them? And we can start mobilizing people to do things. We then had a petition to the governor. Some of you may know Rusty Thomas. His son, Jeremiah, was passing away. And the governor of Texas ended up calling Jeremiah and fulfilled his wish. And Jeremiah asked him to abolish abortion in Texas, which is, I mean, that guy's a hero. And the Governor Abbott said, that's what we're going to be doing. In fact, Governor Abbott referenced, he actually, in talking to Jeremiah, he talked about that we had just passed this resolution in the Republican Party, that was our second time to do it. He's like, that's what we just passed at the Republican convention last week, and that's what we're going to be doing this upcoming legislative session, and we're to completely outlaw abortion in the state of Texas. You know, Jeremiah is beaming. It was a wonderful moment, except that the governor didn't do that. Yeah. But he had not yet broken his promise, and so we were like, well, let's do a petition to support Jeremiah's wish, and let's call on the governor, let's call on people to stand with the governor in support of that. So we did a petition, and it went crazy. I think we had 75,000 people who signed the petition, and we ended up delivering those to the governor's office. And now also, then we had 75,000 people who then we could email, which we then got. We got a hearing on our bill, and we were able to email those people to show up. We had about 500 people for the hearing, which there's no bill that session that had that many people. And all that to say, all that kind of comes back to being able to get people on your list and be able to mobilize those people, and then that turns things out.
Let's look at ways that you, living in Georgia, can be engaged, and at what levels you can be engaged. First, we want to look at meeting your legislators before the 2024 session in January. And we recommend this, and we're asking currently for our Georgia residents to meet with their legislators in the local level before they go to the legislative session beginning in January, because they have more time to meet with you personally when they're still in their districts. And when you meet with them, encourage them and ask them questions and inform them of legislation. This is very important because House Bill 496 and House Resolution 413 need to be supported by our legislators, and sometimes the legislators, because of the mass volume of legislation that they deal with, they are not particularly focused on some of the pieces of legislation that may not get as much exposure. So inform them of the House Bill 496 and House Resolution 413. Also, sign the Georgia Right to Life Personhood Petition and tell your family, friends, and neighbors. This petition regards the House Resolution 413, and we are petitioning our Georgia voters over 18 to sign that petition, telling your legislators and our governor that we would like a personhood petition to be added to our state constitution. Join or form a local Georgia Right to Life chapter. Georgia Right to Life has 26 chapters active in the state of Georgia, and there's always need for more chapters in the state in order to continue our energizing and mobilization of our grassroots. So very important to have chapters in every area of the state, and at least in a particular group of counties, depending on the size, or simply an area of the state. Educate yourself and other people. You can do this through signing up for the Georgia Right to Life emails that are sent out on a regular basis. We also have an e-newsletter that is sent out monthly at the beginning of each month, which has very informative articles and pieces and videos that pertain to the life issues. It's not necessarily just about abortion or the preborn child, but it deals with end-of-life issues and other issues that may be on the periphery, such as human trafficking, disabilities, domestic violence. Those are just some of the issues that we cover that are on the periphery of the sanctity of human life. Encourage your pastor to promote the sanctity of human life and personhood in your church. One of the ways that we promote sanctity of human life, January is Sanctity of Human Life Month, and so there are lots of churches that will take the initiative to speak from the pulpit on sanctity of human life. But this is critical even beyond the month of January when there's a lot of focus on it. This is critical to ask your pastor to very frequently mention and talk about and preach on the sanctity of life and personhood, or host a Georgia Right to Life training and outreach. Georgia Right to Life is involved with churches, schools, college campuses, anywhere that we are invited to have an outreach or a training regarding personhood. We are also actively engaged in county, local, state, national level conferences, conventions, fairs, all kinds of things where we can go and we can present the sanctity of human life and personhood to those in the communities. So one of the ways that you can get engaged with that is any activities in your local county or your chapter events. Please volunteer. Consider volunteering not just to assist at a booth, but to engage in communication with others in your community about those events. That's also a way to, as we were talking about mobilizing our grassroots, that's also a great way to meet like-minded voters in your area, or just to spread the message of life to those around you in your communities. So please take advantage of the opportunities that are given to you to engage your community in various ways. Thank you for attending this presentation.